when we work with clients, how we do determine if emotions are helping the conversation move forward or holding it back?
There's the emotion of the coach, which is another question I hope you ask, but then there's the emotion of the client. And I first want to say, emotions are a part of the human experience, and there is no bad emotion. I always tell my coaches that I train, slow down. Slow down, let them go through that. Because when we trigger a creative insight, that aha we call breakthrough, what happens is you've asked a question or you've shared a reflection that the brain goes, that's different than what I thought. And it then in the middle brain has to kind of reconnect and rewire.
They always had this particular notion that, I think I should not evoke any bad emotion. It's
a myth, and it was never ever stated in, I know the ICF competencies never said, you must be positive, so they confuse it with, I have to help them feel confident and excited about the future.
Hey there, and welcome back to EI Cafe with Azim. Before we dive into today's conversation, I just want to take a moment to say thank you. Yes, you, for showing up, whether this is your first episode or you have been with me since the early days. I genuinely appreciate your time, your curiosity, and your willingness to grow. Now, here is something interesting I came across. Did you know that nearly 50% of podcast listeners tune in regularly but haven't actually hit the subscribe button? Which means there are good chances you might be loving them but still missing out on the episode that could really spark a shift in your thinking, your leadership, or even your personal growth. So, if anything you have heard on this show has ever made you pause, reflect, or just feel, go ahead, subscribe on your favorite platform and drop a quick review. It truly helps others to discover the show and maybe share an episode with someone who could use a dose of inspiration today. I'm committed to making each episode more meaningful, more relevant, and truly worth your time. My promise to you, I'll keep showing up with honest conversation, inspiring voices, and ideas that matters to help you grow from inside out. Alright, let's get into today's conversation. Greetings to you from Colombo, Sri Lanka. This is EI Cafe with Azim, Season 12, and I'm your host Azim Sahir, a human capital specialist, a legacy display facilitator, and an ICF certified PCC level coach, an emotional intelligence and emotional culture practitioner. I'm one of the lead facilitators at Luminary Learning Solutions. This weekly show helps you to explore the impact of emotional intelligence on our lives through engaging conversation with industry leaders, innovators, executive coaches, thought leaders. As well, we aim to inspire and empower you. Today, we are diving into a question that coaches and leaders often wrestle with. Are emotions obstacles, or they actually the compass guiding transformation? In coaching, emotions can be the very thing that blocks progress or the key that unlocks it. How we recognize, work with, harness emotion can determine whether a conversation stays on the surface or goes deep enough to spark the real change. To help to explore this particular context, I am joined by someone who has not only shaped the coaching profession, but inspired coaches around the world to embrace the power of emotional connection. She is not, new to this particular very profession, well-seasoned person. It's none other than Dr. Marcia Reynolds. Is a globally recognized thought leader in the coaching profession, as a past president of the ICE International Coaching Federation, and the author of several best-selling books, including The Coaching the Person, Not the Problem, She's known for her pioneering work helping coaches evoke insight through emotional connection, and her teaching are grounded in both neuroscience and decade of practical coaching experience. Dr. Marcia's mission is simply yet profound to help people change the way they see themselves so they can create the results that truly want. Dr. Marcia, it's such an honor to have you in the cafe. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for the invitation.
Thank you very much. And I think it's a great honor for me to have you in the cafe. As I mentioned before the recording starts, you are one of my bucket list person I always wanted to have in the cafe, because you have done such an amazing job to the whole coaching fraternity and so whole humankind. So you heard the context, and the topic we are going to discuss is something very close to you as well. It's our emotions getting in the way of guiding the conversation. To start off this conversation, I would like to pose this question to you. When we work with clients, how do you determine if emotions are helping the conversation move forward or holding it back? The purpose is for this question is we should be able to really distinguish between productive and disruptive element of this whole piece of emotion in the conversation, and that's what I wanted from you. Let's start from there.
Just to put it in context, though, when we're talking emotions, there's the emotion of the coach, which is another question I hope you asked, but then there's the emotion of the client. And I first want to say, emotions are a part of the human experience, and there is no bad emotion. And so even if they get angry or they're resisting, that's okay. That's just their experience. And for us as coaches, we receive and appreciate wherever they are in this moment and use their emotional reaction. So if if you ask a question and they get defensive about it, to even then say, okay, so that was interesting. Could you tell me just what happened in that moment? That question I asked seemed to not sit well with you. Can you explain that to me? So we don't judge or ignore or avoid any emotion, but to look at what just occurred with that emotional expression. Because generally, an emotion indicates they see something new or there's something not said. And so I want to go deeper into it. But if I judge it, then I won't be able to do that. So we start by accepting all emotions are human emotions and are a part of the process that they're going through right now.
Absolutely. I think I'm also a firm believer that every emotion is so powerful. Every moment is so powerful as a human being for us to really thrive in any moment. Sadness, joyful, disgust, frustration. But I would like to leave the question where you also was like, okay, we always talk about client's emotion. What about the coach's emotion? How that is so important?
Well, oftentimes we think of preparing for a session of just getting grounded in the present and do it physically, but we don't really, other than clearing your mind from the distractions of the day, we have to emotionally set ourselves, and the emotions that open us fully. So it's not just an open mind, but an open heart, an open gut. Our curiosity, care. I care about my clients, and I have compassion for their experience, which opens my heart. But I also need to open my gut with courage to be able to reflect something that may be difficult for the client, or an emotion that maybe is difficult for me. When they express it, I have to be courageous and move through that. And there's now so much research that shows if I do that and I fully open myself with curiosity, care, and courage, that when I come into the conversation, I'm already impacting my client even before I talk. that my openness, really it's in a vulnerable state for me to be that open, but it fully allows them and invites them into the conversation energetically. They immediately feel safe with you. And there's a lot of work done in therapeutic presence that demonstrates how safe the person feels when you're fully open. And you're fully open to receive what they have to say, so you're not trying to remember what question to ask. You're receiving and appreciating their experience, which then further inspires them to bond with you and to be willing to go through the process with you, even when it's a bit uncomfortable for them. But discomfort is a big part of learning. So we have to fully open that, but also be aware while we're coaching if any parts of our nervous system shut down. So if they get defensive, does our heart shut down? We have to come back and open it. So our emotions actually impact our total physical presence as well, which then creates the energetic experience, the bond, the loop that we have with our clients. And they're even willing to look into their resistance, their hesitation, their anger, frustration, because they feel safe. And the dopamine and the serotonin says that we then trigger in them says, oh, this is going to be an okay experience. So emotions are extremely important to the success we have in coaching.
Yeah. Absolutely. I think it's so important that prior to the session, post the session, how we reflect ourselves. Now, I'm going to pose a question. It is leading to many other questions, so let's just bundle it up. So, many coaches fear in terms of getting into this emotional state in the session. It's like, client going on a lost frame now. I think client going on a deep rabbit hole now, and what I'm going to do. People struggle at the same time. At the same time, there might be moments I'm with a client now narrative a story for me, and I feel that, it seems like my story. I know this story can end. What should I do now? Will I be directing my experience to the client? So that thought process goes without knowing us, because when we listen to the client's narrative. Now, my question here is, how can we reframe such emotional as an ally in the client growth process? How can we reframe the mindset of myself as a coach, and how can I reframe the client's mindset? How do you think we can navigate this?
You kind of have three questions there.
Yeah, sorry for that.
Yeah, you stacked your questions. So I want to separate them out. So you talked a little bit about when the client goes down, and when you say the rabbit hole, meaning that they go really deep into something in their experience. It's not that they're going somewhere else, but they're going deep. But then the experience of, I've experienced that, when my story gets in the way of theirs. That's two different issues. And then the third question you ask, is a little different as well. So I'm going to start with the rabbit hole. That there's a big misunderstanding of what empathy is. And even when I jump into my story thinking, I've experienced that as well. No, you haven't ever. I have not lived your experience. I don't care if you lived next door to me all your life and we had a similar experience. My experience is not the same as yours. So as soon as I have that, I've been there, you have to let that go, because then you will then start taking in their emotional state, and they're like then going deeper and you're going, I've been there. And then you go down the rabbit hole with them. So empathy is not, empathy is not even an emotion. Empathy is just, I sense your experience and I will feel it, but only enough for me to understand it. And then I need to release it and let it go. I don't go into your emotional state, but I will pick it up. I can feel, like the sadness. I'll feel it in my heart, or I can feel your fear in my gut. I'll feel that. But then I breathe and release it so I can stay present with you and your experience and ask you, this sadness that you're experiencing right now, would you tell me more of what triggered that? What's coming up for you in this moment? To stay in my compassionate curiosity, to give you a moment to process your emotion and then ask you what it means to you. So we must stay fully present. So yes, recognize the emotion, but then let it go. And that's called compassionate detaching, that we have to do in order to stay in the coaching process with our clients. And never, ever, ever jump in and say, oh, wow, I've experienced that too, and start telling your own story, because then it becomes about you and not your client. Don't do that. And, it's a common human trait all over the world that in casual conversations, we do it all the time. We jump in and tell what it means to us. It drives me crazy. It's like, well, you're not listening to me anymore. So even in our casual conversations, we have to limit that jumping into our own story and our own experience and stay presently, respectfully listening to the person that we're with. So we have an incredible capability as humans to back here just kind of monitor our emotional state while we're still staying fully present with our clients. So if I just notice that I'm out of balance, that I'm not, open in my heart anymore or my gut, and I'm just thinking, the quicker I can catch that, the quicker I can let it go and come back to full presence. So I always say, thinking is the enemy of the coach. The moment you start thinking, go back into your listening, go back into your presence, you're receiving what they say, and quit thinking, because then you're going to interpret and you're going to get in the way of the coaching. You're on mute.
Thank you. I think it was lovely presented, Dr. Marcia. It's important. I really like the part, stop thinking, start listening. And I think that's a transformation which automatically takes through. When you're going through this particular whole feeling and emotional part of it, what I'm trying to say is, as a coach, how important it is for us to be aware about the emotions, the client. So aware about, how much of emotional awareness we should have within this particular element of conversation.
Okay. I don't have to know what exactly their emotions are. All I'm going to do is to reflect the difference in their body, their gestures, their face. So if they say something and then they look away and maybe they're thinking, or they look a little sad, I might say, you stopped there for a moment and started thinking about this. Would you share what's coming and what just came up for you? So all I do is express that. If they look down and have a hard time not crying or actually cry, you hold it. You hold the presence. Don't jump in to fix them. Let them go through it. And then if we allow them to process their emotion, at some point the emotion will start to subside. And if we stay present, we'll feel that.
Yeah.
And it's in that moment that the emotion starts to subside that we say, would you be willing to share with me what's just coming up for you right now? I don't have to say, when you started crying, because they know they did.
So is it
don't try to fix or save your client. Don't ever do that.
If I put this word, will it be correct? Is it the space where our clients go in a self-insight mode, create that self-insight? Is it correct if I say that word?
When they have the emotion, or from the coach?
So you said, for example, now you said about if the client's putting the head down, creating the moment looking it up, and we as coaches observe that. And you said, don't jump in, hold that space. So
the space, let them process.
exactly. So that's
And then
I'm saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Don't
is it
jump in.
space?
Look, I always tell my coaches that I train, slow down. Slow down. Let them go through that. Because when we trigger a creative insight, that aha we call breakthrough, what happens is you've asked a question or you've shared a reflection that the brain goes, that's different than what I thought. And it then in the middle brain has to kind of reconnect and rewire. And for a moment they'll be quiet. And then what will happen, even in the moment of aha, they might, wow, but then there'll be an emotional reaction, because what it indicates is they just had an insight, a new awareness that they didn't have before. So all emotions, intense emotions, indicate they just had an awareness, but what happens is it could make them sad that they hadn't realized it before, or embarrassed about what they've done to other people or even themselves. They could get angry at, I've been sabotaging myself forever, And so that's great. It's a response to a new awareness. You just did good coaching. Don't take it away. Allow them to process the emotion, and then just say, would you share what just came up for you? What's going on in your mind? Because a creative insight is great to have, but if you don't speak it out loud, it can be forgotten. So you want them to articulate the new thing they see. And they may struggle with that when they think they got it, but then when they go to speak it, it's not clear. That's okay. Just let them say it and then reflect, so what you're saying is this. Let them hear it out loud, and then they can fill in the blanks. So sometimes we have to also kind of coach them into a concise, clear statement of what the awareness is.
So when that awareness, when that creative process happens, there are a lot of emotions on the back of the mind of the client does process. Can be sadness, can be excitement.
Absolutely. It could be, they might laugh at themselves.
Yeah. This is what they were talking about, right?
Yeah.
So I think...
And it's all good. It's all good.
Right.
Yeah.
So because why I asked that particular context is, sometimes we as a coach, now there might be coaches who's stepping into the industry, getting into their practices. They always had this particular notion that, I think I should not evoke any bad emotions. I should not feel.
It's a myth. And it was never ever stated in, like I know the ICF competencies never said, you must be positive, so they confuse it with, I have to help them feel confident and excited about the future. But they won't learn anything if you just stay on the surface, and it's like, that sounds great. Okay, so, that's, what are you going to do? You tend to then jump into actions too soon. Yeah, and you're not allowing them to have the experience of growth, of learning. Learning happens in the moment of uncertainty. I must let go of what I thought I knew, which is not comfortable, to accept what I can see now. And so the uncertainty is going to trigger a range of emotions. Yeah. They're good. It's a good thing. And so one of my favorite sayings, many people know this, I always say, we're not there to help them to feel better.
Yes.
They're to help them to see better.
Yeah.
Stay with that. And if you're not comfortable with negative emotions, then that's some work you need to do as a coach. Yeah. To work on your own discomfort with emotions.
Yeah. I think you're just aligning for this next question when you just say you need to work with that particular. Here's the question. Now you as mentioned that if you're not used to work with that particular different emotion or difficult emotion, my question for you: how can coaches skillfully navigate this so more client strong emotion without getting swept into their stories?
Yeah.
Because I think this is something really important for us to talk about.
No, definitely. It's why I was really looking forward to this conversation with you, because I am so grateful that, a year into my coach training, that Daniel Goleman came out with his book on emotional intelligence. And I dove into the research, started teaching it actually all over the world. I was one of the first emotional intelligence trainers before everybody else was teaching it, and wrote my book, Outsmart Your Brain, based on how do I manage my emotions in that moment. I think this is critical, not just for coaches, but for leaders, for parents, for everyone, to have a foundation in emotional intelligence, which allows me to know when I'm physically, because emotions, difficult emotions, all emotions show up in the body before the brain, to know when I tighten up and release it and come back to choosing. The word intelligence is from the Greek word intelligere, which means choice between, that I have a choice of an emotion. So if I'm with a client and all of a sudden I'm uncomfortable because of what they're feeling, I know I can breathe, release it, and come back to being calm and curious, or courageous and caring. You choose two emotions and just anchor. Come back to feeling, choosing how you want to feel in that moment, and it'll bring you back into presence. So I think all coaches and everyone needs to go through really working with emotional intelligence, so we become the masters of our emotions and not allow our brain to take the wheel.
Wow, I think that's an amazing way to really wrap up the whole emotion piece. And I was a firm believer of emotional intelligence. I think, as you rightly said, everybody should go through this particular whole process of emotional intelligence, from schools to parenting to everything. And as coaches also, it's important to have that particular piece. So thank you very much for bringing that particular context. Now, Marcia, we are coming to an exciting segment, the rapid fire. Are you ready?
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. So here it is goes. So I'm going to pause you a question. I need very short answers from you. Right. So rapid fire segment, question number 1. One word you would use to describe the essence of coaching.
Love.
Love. Brilliant. Okay. I know you have written a lot of books and everybody's fan of your books, but I would ask this one, a book you recommend to every coach apart from your book.
It's usually the ones that I'm reading right now, but I do like Robert Biswas-Denir's book on radical listening.
Right. Yeah. Brilliant. And question number 3, your personal ritual before starting a coaching session.
I look out at the mountain that I get to see and my beautiful trees, and I just breathe in, and I'm grateful for this moment to be here in this space with my clients.
Yeah, super. And the last question on this segment. I know you mentioned every emotions are so important, but if emotions was a superpower, what would yours be?
My emotion?
Yeah.
Again, love.
Love.
I love my clients. I love my life. Right. If I can bring, and that with gratitude, I think that's the place to be.
Right. Yeah. So that's the end of the rapid fire, Dr. Marcia. And before we wind up this conversation, I would like to ask you to share with our audience and viewers, what would your key message in terms of the topics for the coaches? How do you embrace these particular emotions, and how you make that safe environment for clients for growth? What's your last message?
Yeah. Well, it's something I've said for years that, part of our discomfort is because we always think we have to do it right, but our clients don't need us to be right. They just need us to be present.
Brilliant. Brilliant. I think the word presence is very impactful. So, ladies and gentlemen, that's the time what we have for today. And Dr. Marcia, thank you for sharing your wisdom and helping us use that emotions aren't distractions to avoid. They are the signals to follow. So when we recognize emotions, not roadblocks, but as information, we open the door to deep awareness, richer conversation, and lasting change we make in our clients. And for coaches, this means being brave enough to sit and, go through the emotional space with our clients. And that's what I think Dr. Marcia's message is. Sit out there, listen, and go with that emotional state. And it's I think it's important to pause. That's the presence you're talking about. Pause before pushing them aside. They might be the pointing to the next exact breakthrough you're searching for. Dr. Marcia, thank you very much for joining in EI Cafe and sharing your wisdom. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of EI Cafe with Azim. If this episode resonated to you, don't miss out these powerful conversations too. Episode number 121, Beyond Algorithm, the Future of Coaching with Jazz Rasool. Episode number 111, Team Coaching in Uncertainty with Dr. Hazen Moon. And episode number 92, How Generative Conversations Solve Tension with Janet M. Harvey. Every episode is a step deeper into the power of emotional intelligence in leadership, teams, and life. If it sparks reflection, clarity, or action, leave a review, share your thoughts, or pass it to someone who will get the benefit from this particular episodes. This is the EI Cafe with Azim. And checking out from the cafe, I am Azim Sahir. And until next time, tune into your emotions and turn them into insights. Take care. God bless you.